Somewhere in the dark fabric between stars, where light drifts like ancient whispers and time folds like paper under gravity's breath, I dream of a sky I've never seen. Not our sky, familiar, blue, tethered to memory, but a sky where the clouds are made of crushed metal, where twin suns rise in opposite directions and shadows cross each other like dancers. I imagine standing on a distant shore of some alien sea, the horizon pulsing violet, the air thick with unknown scents, ozone and minerals, and something sweetly electric, like the breath of newborn lightning. A moon hangs low, enormous and cracked like a glass heart, its light scattering across a forest of crystalline trees that hum with each passing wind. I feel the gravity tug slightly wrong beneath my feet, as if the planet is unsure of its own weight. And as I look up, always up, I realize I am not searching for a place. I am searching for an echo, something that answers back when we ask the universe, what else could it have dreamed of besides us? Maybe that's why we stare at the sky, not for navigation, not even for beauty, but to glimpse the edges of imagination itself. The cosmos is not merely a stage for stars, it's a canvas for thought. Each point of light is an unfinished sentence, a metaphor waiting to unfold. When I close my eyes, I can hear the low-frequency hum of magnetic storms from alien magnetospheres, feel the pulse of foreign atmospheres pressing against hulls not yet built. Somewhere, I believe, clouds are forming from silicates and ammonia, swirling like smoke over continents of cobalt glass. And maybe, just maybe, something watches back, wordless, formless, but aware. Not of us specifically, but of being seen. The gaze of consciousness crossing a void so large it warps the concept of distance. And in that shared gaze, however brief, I feel less like a visitor, more like a part of the silence. We already know they exist. Not just one or two, but thousands. Confirmed, catalogued, charted across sky maps like celestial breadcrumbs. Worlds orbiting other stars. Some spin so close to their suns that metal turns to vapor in their skies. Others drift so far they sleep in eternal frost, their surfaces locked in silence older than Earth itself. TRAPPIST-1, Kepler-86f, Gliese 581c, names more like coordinates in a vast riddle than places we can yet pronounce with familiarity. But they are there, breathing their alien rhythms, shaped by strange gravities and alien chemistries. We found planets with ruby clouds and oceans of methane, super-Earths with iron rain, and gas giants trailing comet-like tails across the void. Some are tidally locked, frozen on one side and scorched on the other, with a twilight band in between, a Terminator line where life might perch on the edge of fire and ice. These aren't fantasy. They're measured, calculated, and increasingly vivid through telescopes like Kepler, Hubble, and now James Webb, machines that peel back the dark, one photon at a time. The James Webb Space Telescope has already tasted the atmospheres of other worlds. With its golden eyes tuned to infrared light, it sees not just color, light, but composition, detecting carbon dioxide, water vapor, traces of clouds. On a planet 700 light-years away, it found a chemical soup suspended in heat, hints of storms and carbon chemistry under pressure. It's not a landscape we could survive, but that's not the point. The value of alien worlds isn't in their hospitality, but in their possibility. Every atmosphere we decode is a sentence in the language of planets. Every orbital curve is a heartbeat. Even silence is instructive. When we point a telescope and find nothing, no water, no light, no glimmer of promise, it sharpens the outline of what Earth truly is. It reminds us that having a sky like ours is not default, it's anomaly. And that anomaly is why we look for echoes elsewhere. I think often of rogue planets, massive bodies flung from their birth systems, now drifting alone through galactic dark. Without a sun, they are invisible to the human eye. But we know they're there, thousands, maybe millions. Heated not by starlight, but by radioactive decay deep in their cores. Some may hold oceans beneath thick crusts of iron and ice, silent, pressurized, waiting. Others may be encased in storms of liquid hydrogen, glowing faintly in infrared like embers under ash. Entire ecosystems might live beneath their surfaces, blind but thriving, fed by heat, not light. These worlds don't orbit, they wander. And still, they are bound to us by physics, by gravity, by the rules of the same cosmos. Somewhere in that cold between stars, life could be hiding, not in the blaze of suns, but in the hush between them. But wonder carries weight. The farther we peer, the stranger the truth becomes. Some planets are not just different, they are impossible. Take Gliese 436b, where ice burns. Not metaphorically, but literally. Water turns solid by crushing gravity, yet hot enough to boil steel, held together by physics that feels more like myth. Or WASP 76b, where the atmosphere is so superheated that vaporized iron drifts into the night and rains down as molten metal. Picture that. Standing beneath a blackened sky as drops of glowing iron hiss into alien seas. Then there are the worlds with no light at all, where stars have died and only the pulsar remains, blinking its final strobe into the dark. Around such stellar corpses orbit zombie planets, scorched, stripped, irradiated, yet still clinging to gravity's leash. Some of them may still carry oceans beneath their crusts, warmed not by starlight, but by the lingering embers of cosmic death. And it's here, in these nightmarish edges of possibility, that I begin to feel it. Not fear exactly, but humility. We used to think Earth was the standard, but now I wonder if it's the exception. Imagine a gas giant with winds so fast they blur the surface into chaos, where glass rains sideways at twice the speed of sound. This is HD 1A9733b. Its clouds are laced with silicate particles, and the blue hue we see from space is not from oceans, but from scattered minerals, fractured and airborne. It looks calm from afar, like a sapphire. But up close, it is a storm of shrapnel, a planet that shreds everything it touches. And yet, it orbits its star like clockwork, unfazed. Or take Kepler-10c, a mega-Earth, 17 times more massive than our world, with gravity so intense that mountains could barely rise before collapsing under their own weight. On such a world, your breath would fail before you could lift your gaze. And still, it's real, out there, part of the same cosmic story. And then there are the egg-shaped ones, planets distorted by the pull of their own stars, stretched and twisted like celestial teardrops. Some glow so fiercely they're brighter than their suns in infrared, wrapped in clouds of carbon monoxide and methane so dense they absorb almost all incoming light. WASP 12b is one such world, charred, doomed, drawn ever closer to its star, until one day it will dissolve completely, leaving behind only an echo in the infrared spectrum. We measure its death in millions of years. To the universe, that's a blink. To us, it's a prophecy. We're learning slowly that beauty in space does not imply safety. Some of the most dazzling places we'll ever discover will kill us in seconds. But that doesn't make them any less worthy of wonder. It makes them more. Because they exist anyway. There are places so far away that even light, swift and tireless, has not yet arrived. Regions where silence isn't the absence of sound, but the presence of eternity. Out there, beyond the known catalog of stars, exist the hypothetical. Rogue planets unanchored to any sun, wandering alone in the ink. Worlds shrouded in perpetual night, warmed only by internal friction or radioactive decay. Their skies devoid of dawn. No shadows, no seasons, just the slow churn of stone beneath a velvet sky. I imagine walking on one. No echo, no wind, no time as we know it. Your breath condenses instantly, falls to the ground in frozen shards. The ground is silent but alive with gravity, a pull that feels personal. Above, the stars do not twinkle. They are sharp, motionless, uncaring. This is not a place that notices your presence, and yet you're there. A brief spark in an ocean of cold permanence. I begin to understand. The universe is not built for comfort. It's not even built for us. But in its vast, indifferent sprawl, it leaves room for curiosity. For awe, for the persistent question, why is anything here at all? I think of the stars that never formed, of dust clouds that drift in pregnant stillness, potential suspended in cosmic inertia. I think of the empty intergalactic voids, millions of light years across, containing almost nothing at all. If you could stand there, in that utter black, you would see no stars, no galaxies, no up, no down, only the distant glow of everything else, too far to touch or hear. That kind of silence is not absence, it's fullness. A silence so complete it pushes against your chest like pressure. Out there are no constellations, no myths, just raw existence, unlabeled, unsliced, uninterpreted. And yet, we send probes, we write equations, we dream entire civilizations from spectral lines and radio noise. Because we are not satisfied with looking, we need to feel the dark, to push against it and see if it pushes back. And sometimes it does. Sometimes it pushes with mystery. A dip in starlight too regular to be chance, a signal that seems structured, a chemical composition that doesn't make sense. We chase these anomalies like poets chasing metaphors, never sure if they're real or just beautifully wrong. But that's the work. Not to find answers, necessarily, but to let the questions bloom in places no one has asked them yet. Even emptiness can be fertile if approached with wonder. Even silence can speak. What if the reason we seek these worlds isn't survival, but longing? A hunger not for escape, but for recognition. Some glimmer in the cosmos that mirrors our strangeness back to us. Perhaps it's not the presence of life we crave, but the possibility of it. A cracked surface that might hide oceans. A faint signature in the spectrum that hints at chlorophyll or methane. A whisper in the data that says, "Not alone." We keep listening, building telescopes so large they drink light from the beginning of time itself. We name planets before we see them, sketch coastlines we may never touch. There's something sacred in that reaching. And yet, every answer teeters on the edge of unknowability. TRAPPIST-1e might host life, but tidal locking could have frozen it in paradox. Proxima Centauri b is Earth-sized, but battered by stellar flares. Each new hope arrives with a shadow attached. And still, we look. Because even a shadow on a distant planet tells us something vital, that we haven't reached the limit of the real. That reality still outruns our understanding. That wonder remains. And maybe that's all we need. Not contact, not confirmation, just a pattern that shouldn't be there. Just one drop of oxygen on a world without trees. One molecule out of place, one wobble in the starlight. These are the new miracles, small, quiet, measured in decimals and probabilities. And still, they stir something ancient in us. The first humans must have felt it, staring into flames, carving spirals into cave walls. This need to make meaning from chaos, to read signs in light. Now we do the same, only the light takes years to arrive, and the signs are buried in electromagnetic noise. Still, we wait. We refine. We point our instruments at 1,000 suns and hope one of them blinks back with intent. We dream of biosignatures the way our ancestors dreamed of gods. And maybe the truth will be stranger than either. Maybe alien life won't be carbon-based or water-loving or anything like us. Maybe it won't even want to be seen. It could be so embedded in its own context, its own kind of perception, that we wouldn't recognize it even if we stepped in its shadow. But even that is worth something. To be wrong in our predictions is to be reminded of the scale of the unknown. To miss the mark is to map the void. And in that gap between what we hope and what we find, a deeper question forms. What are we really looking for? I imagine a future where someone, human, post-human, something entirely new, walks beneath the triple sunrises of a world we haven't yet named. They stand barefoot in a red-gold desert where each grain of sand is laced with metallic shimmer, and when they look up, they see not one moon, but 7. Each with its own color, its own orbit, its own quiet story. Their breath fogs in the low gravity, rising in slow spirals. Behind them, a ship, silent and skeletal. Ahead, ruins not their own. Or perhaps just mountains, so strange they appear carved by intention. In that moment, they do not wonder how they got there. They wonder why it feels familiar. Because maybe we're not visitors to the cosmos. Maybe we are its memory, its way of looking back on itself with eyes made of carbon and nerve and longing. Maybe the stars are not destinations, but mirrors. And if that's true, then every world, no matter how alien, how hostile, how far, is a kind of home. Not because we belong to it, but because it reminds us we belong to something larger. So I ask one last question and let it linger in the void. What if the universe has been dreaming of us too? And if it dreams, perhaps it leaves clues, scattered like pollen in the dust of nebulae, hidden in the orbits of rogue moons, the asymmetry of rings, the geometry of planetary storms. Maybe those patterns aren't random. Maybe they're artifacts, resonances from civilizations that bloomed and vanished before our atoms were even assembled. Or perhaps they're natural, beautiful, in the same way snowflakes or coastlines are beautiful, shaped by pressure, chaos, time. Either way, they're stories. And stories are how meaning survives entropy. The day we step onto another world, we won't just be explorers. We'll be translators. Interpreters of silence, sculptors of metaphor in a landscape that doesn't yet know our names. I think about that often. The moment we leave Earth not as tourists or scouts, but as authors of a new chapter in existence. That first boot print on alien soil, the crunch of dust never touched, the pause before breath. Cameras will roll, flags might be planted, but the real legacy will be interior. A shift in identity, a permanent widening of the human heart. Because once we know we're not confined to this one fragile world, we also know we're not confined to this one fragile idea of ourselves. We stretch, we imagine wider, and in that expansion we become something else. So let the stars remain strange, let the planets remain perilous, let the odds stay stacked and the distances absurd, because the universe doesn't owe us safety. It only owes us possibility, and that's more than enough. We will find ways to cross the dark, even if the light never guides us. We will build languages for the unspeakable. We will breathe where no breath was meant to be. And in that defiance, in that curiosity, we will become more than stardust. We will become the echo that answers back.